Hello, everybody. I am so excited to introduce my wife, Gina. I've been wanting to do this podcast recording for a couple of months now and feel like the time is perfect. I had trouble deciding, well, what subject should we call this one? And I was going to have her say, How I Married the Perfect Husband. And I thought, no, that'd be a lie. So can't go that. How about the almost perfect husband? I thought, no, that'd be a lie too. So this can be real raw, but it's also going to be fun. When I say raw, I told Gina she has such a personal testimony to share that it just needed to be told to other men and women. And so it'll be real, but hopefully you'll be very encouraged. We are just fellow travelers down this blended family road. We don't feel like we're better than anybody else. Maybe we've been down the road longer, but we don't feel like we're better. And I just knew that we needed to share her story. And so thank you for joining us today. And honey, thank you for doing this
You're
um,
welcome.
for people to hear.
Right.
Just got a few questions, and I'll just let you go ahead and however the Lord leads you to share. First of all, just tell us about your upbringing, so people can get context of where you were
Okay.
born and did you have a mom and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, I have a mom, I have a dad.
Yeah.
Um, I was born in Biloxi, Mississippi on an Air Force base. My dad was in the Air Force. And so growing up, my mom was an interior designer. And then, so I kind of took some of that more after her. Um, that's kind of my passion, what I love doing. Uh, Part of my life. I was raised in East Texas, where all of our family from my dad's side and my mom's side live. And part of my life, we moved away. We moved away several times, moved away off to different places, St. Louis, um, Fort Worth, Commerce. We were on different with him working with Air Force um, in the military. We moved quite a bit when I was young. But the two places that we stayed the longest were, back in East Texas in their hometown, and then also out here in Richardson for a big part of my junior high and the beginning of my high school life. Then moved back to East Texas for graduating in high school, which was not an easy move, not an easy time of my life to move. But glad I did. All places had a reason, and it's definitely made it easier for me to adjust when I've moved to different places and to adjust to things in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know your faith is extremely important. How did you come to know the Lord?
Through my aunt. My mom has a sister that actually is just a year older than you, and I was really close to her growing up, and I was really close to both of my mom's sisters. Um, but her younger sister, well, they were both her younger sisters, but the youngest one uh, was a little more closer to, she was more my age. So she was 6 years older than me, and she just took a lot of time. She's very patient, took a lot of time with me. I used to walk to church with her in their little hometown of Hugh Springs, and we would walk on the black tar roads back behind the store where they lived. Um, and go to church with her. And she would answer all of my millions of questions that I had.
That's neat.
So that's really where I came to know the Lord is through her. And then, yeah, as I got older.
That's neat. That's neat. Then, obviously, before I ever met you, you were married and you had some children. Tell us about your first marriage.
My first marriage, we were married nearly 12 years and had four little boys and had gone down a path of him going to school to become a doctor. And I chose to work for those 7 years. We kind of made a decision for me to go back to work for those 7 years so that we could later on have me at home being able to raise the kids and not both of us having to work. So, so yeah, that was what we did. We had a goal, we set out and did it, and then landed in a little town in Arkansas And actually, our business took off and became very successful really fast. So, yeah,
Things didn't end well though. You guys divorced. You had
right,
four children. Then
right.
then we met on 070593.
We did. We had a mutual friend that I kept in touch with when I lived in Richardson. We became good friends during those years, and we became really good friends that kept in touch all throughout until we were married. And I saw her every year at Christmas. We would be at my mom's house in Dallas and always spend time at her house, go to her parents' Christmas Eve party. So, and then my mom was also doing some design work at her house and told her what I was going through. And she knew somebody in her Sunday school class that was going through the same thing, which was
Mhm.
you. And
Right.
so she was determined to fix us up on a blind date. Took a
Yeah.
little while, but she did it.
So it started off tremendous, but then as we dated, the next 2.5, 3 years were kind of up and down. I call them wandering in the wilderness. We're going to be together. Well, maybe we're not. And
Right.
tell
Right.
tell us about that journey of that wandering in the wilderness period.
Right. Well, we both had a lot of walls up. Our spouses had left us. So there was a lot of trust, a lot of hurt. And we did have that in common, but at the same time, it worked against us too, because we had our walls up, who is this guy? I'm sure you thought, who is this girl? What makes you different that you wouldn't leave me if we got together? We just had those kind of things going on. But during that time that I had when my husband had first left, I had really drawn closer to God, really than ever. I really got to really know him in a personal way, not just going through the motions of going to church. I really dug into my Bible and wanted to know him. I related to, I lived in the landlord's house, but I never knew the landlord. So during that time, I really dug in and purposefully sought him and wanted to know him. And I needed it for every breath, to be honest. I was having anxiety, panic attacks. I'd never had those, didn't even really know what they were, but experienced them. And just out of fear of what am I going to do? Um, I was really literally scared, not knowing what am I going to do with these four kids. I'd been out of the workforce for nearly 3 years. And helping start our practice and then staying home with our kids. So and at that time computers had taken off. And so I was so far behind on knowing anything about that. I thought, what can I do? Can I even do um, to go back to work to be able to, raise these little boys? So yeah, I dug in and drew really close to God because it was a time of it was a crisis of faith, is what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So then after we go through our dating journey for those years,
Right.
the light bulb turns on in my head that this would be a good thing to go ahead and get married, and we'll just blend our kids together and be one big happy family, and down the road we go. But it didn't stay that way. That may have been a false expectation at the beginning. And as
Mhm.
we tried to blend, tell everybody some of the challenges that we experienced in blending, especially at the beginning of our journey together.
Well, I really thought I had my rose colored glasses on and thought, if you and I love each other, then our kids are going to love each other. And that's not necessarily how that works out. Nor did they have, nor did we give them adequate enough time during our engagement to get used to all of this. We kind of did it. Once we made the decision to do it, we didn't, and it was like 2 months later we got married. So that was really, I look back and that was probably tough. It wasn't enough adjustment time for them and for us to answer all of their questions and help them work through it. I just
Right.
thought, well, we love each other, they're gonna love each other. And so that doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I didn't think there would be like his kids, my kids. I thought they would be our kids. And though we
Right.
may have said that, there was a line down the middle that you could kind of feel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
I, there's no question. I I thought I was protecting my kids by almost doting over them because
Mhm.
I didn't want them to go through the challenges that I'd gone through. You didn't want your kids to go through the same thing. So that that created some conflict between me and you.
Mhm.
And I remember the painful interview question of my friend Wayne Shepherd. We had been married 7 years.
Mhm.
By the way, for all our listeners, it doesn't, you'll hear the statistic that it takes 7 years to integrate as a family. But I firmly believe that today, with tools like our book, this podcast, Ron Deal, and many, many others, that it doesn't have to take as long. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it doesn't have to be as tough or as painful. During that period of time, I had kind of become self absorbed. And it was all about me. It was all about my kids, trying to be mama hen and protect them.
Mhm.
A hard question that I was asked made me think, how in the world did you even stay with me when life was all about me and my kids and my wishes? What made you hang in there? Because I'm sure there's been many other families, men or women or kids or both, that they're like, I'm out of here. And then they re-divorce. What kept you in and you didn't give up?
Well, we had made a commitment. Um,
Yeah,
and I felt like our kids needed to see something that worked. They need to see, and unfortunately, they saw us work through some things because I wasn't really great at um, how to handle confrontation. I sometimes let it come out no matter who was in the kitchen, per se,
right.
what kids were in the walkway.
I
They were in
remember.
the battle zone.
Yeah,
Um, so, but they also saw us, you know, we were always open and would apologize or give a hug or whatever. They saw that as well. Not that they saw anything abusive or anything like that, but they just, sometimes would see me spout out stuff that I probably shouldn't have
yeah,
said.
right.
That was just kind of the way I was. You didn't have to wonder what I was thinking. So, but I knew they needed to see something work.
Yeah,
And I just was probably stubborn enough that I wasn't going to give up.
yeah.
And you were a little bit stubborn too. I think we both are very stubborn in some
Way
ways.
to say it.
Neither one of us were going to throw in the towel.
Yeah, we both had made that commitment that the
Yeah,
kids had already seen something that didn't work. They
right,
needed to see something that did. So,
right,
as they say, come hell or high water, we decided whatever we're going to do.
right.
Um, this is a tough one for you because it was during that period that maybe the 5 o'clock glass of wine became a little bit more than just a 5 o'clock glass.
Right,
That turned into something. You talk to us about
right,
that, if you would, real quick.
right. I'm going to say one more point about the last subject before I move on to that. Also, our faith was super important to us. And I know there is no way beyond a shadow of a doubt, had we not had God present in our marriage, there, there's no way we would have made it through so many of those things. Because forgiveness had to be in the forefront, not only of our marriage, but with blending the kids. And it was a uh, daily thing that, we had to do. And I probably wasn't as easy to do that, but had to learn how to do that. Otherwise, it carried over to the next day, and then it began being a huge laundry list,
Yeah.
which ended up being a huge burden. So, moving on to the next question. Somewhere after we got married, I cooked a lot. We had 7 kids plus actually 9, so I cooked nearly every night. I decided during cooking time would be, okay to have a glass of wine while I cooked. That was usually my favorite time to have a glass of wine because I love cooking, and it just kind of went together. And you know, the enemy is very patient and can take you down a road very slowly and very patient without you even knowing that anything is happening. And I noticed as the kids got older, maybe the early teenage years, the stress of all of what was going on in our home. All of them played sports, so I had everyone to get to where they needed to go, teachers' meetings, helping in classrooms. And then we got into some teenage and adolescent issues and things going on in their lives that weren't being, um, handled well.
Right.
That it began being kind of a numbing out time for me. So
Yeah.
that one glass turned into two. And then, though I may have stopped for dinner after the kids went to bed at night, and I resumed stuff I did around the house, different chores, projects, crafts, whatever it was I was doing, I would, privately pick it back up at night when everybody was in bed asleep. And then that began to be more and more of a problem until it was, the entire bottle might be gone the next morning. And then some of the kids were noticing that. And then I mean, this all happened little by little. Um,
Right.
and then I, noticed that I didn't like the kids noticing it. So then I was hiding it. So
Yeah.
there was a point in time where I thought, if I'm hiding alcohol, there is a problem.
Yeah.
But I still quietly went down that road, knowing that it was not good decisions, knowing that I loved God and He loved me, and I knew He was in our marriage and in our home. I just couldn't stop. I tried stopping. There were several ways I tried stopping. I was like, oh, I'll do a Bible study every evening at 5 o'clock, and then that'll take my mind off of it. Or I know I'll do, because I was very healthy at eating and drinking all these green drinks and taking vitamins and doing all these healthy things. And then, but at 5 o'clock, chose to pollute my body. But I thought I'll do a cleanse, because on a cleanse, you don't have alcohol, and I'll be able to not have it then because I'll be doing all the good stuff, putting all the good stuff in. That didn't work. I do the cleanse and then drink a glass of alcohol later on in the evening with it. So
Yeah.
I I worked so hard thinking I could earn my way to God helping me quit.
Yeah.
And that was how that kind of started.
But then God miraculously delivered you
Yeah.
from alcohol. Tell us about that story.
Well, it was at a time where you were out of town. Most of our kids had gone off. There were some off at college, and some that had moved out. And our youngest son was still, well, he was even off of college, but was home getting ready to go off to college, and had uh, spring football. So he was home for spring break. And you were off in a men's retreat. And I we were getting ready to go to church. We were actually running late Sunday morning to go to church, just our youngest son, the hours part. We have his, mine, and ours, one son together. So we were getting ready to go to church. We got in late to our church, sat in the very back pew, and our pastor was teaching about what Lent was and what it wasn't. Now, we don't go to a Catholic church. You usually hear that more, I think, in Catholic churches. So we go to a non-denominational church, Bible church. And he was teaching us that because part of his lineage, they really practice Lent. So he was teaching us what are some of the things that maybe we could do for Lent, to give up for Lent. And I knew that our youngest son he's, first of all, he's massive. He's offensive lineman, so he's huge.
Yeah.
Um, he doesn't look like he even belongs to us. We dwarf up against him. So, and he loves Whataburger. So he had been eating a few of those while he was home because they didn't have them in California. And I said to him, when our pastor challenged us to give up something, I looked up at him and I said, "Oh, are you going to give up those Whataburger patty melts?" And he looked down at me, quite a ways down, and looked at me with his piercing blue eyes and said to me, "I don't know, Mom, are you going to give up your wine?"
Mm.
And that stopped me
Wow.
really hard. because in his eyes I saw
Oh,
pain. I
correct.
saw like the love, such a love. It was really like it was Jesus staring through me, through his eyes, into my soul. And I could also feel the pain that it had caused. So, and before I knew it, I said, yeah, I think I will. And then the minute I said it, I felt that other voice say, this is going to be interesting today at 5 o'clock, how you're going to handle this.
Yeah.
But it had already come out of my mouth. And I had not only promised God, said it before him, I said it to our son. And, um, and honestly, that day at 5 o'clock, it was nothing. I didn't want it. And my body was to the point where I craved it every day. I had it every day. So I didn't crave it. I did not go through any withdrawals, no night sweats, no nothing. Um, he truly, I believe, God chose to do it that way because I asked him so many times to take it from me. I knew he could. I knew he could and that he would. It was just it wasn't my
Yeah.
time. I knew I didn't have to earn it, but I felt like I did. I still wanted to do all the things, thinking, if I stay in Bible study, if I do this, if, you know, but it wasn't that way. It wasn't that way at all. I really feel like during that time when this happened, it was at a time where I wasn't asking him, I wasn't thinking about it, I wasn't trying. It's just he had to show me during a time like that where it was just he did it. He just did it. I wasn't doing anything to earn it or to help him because I feel like I'm sometimes want to control things. I want to fix things. And he wanted to show me that it didn't take my help. It didn't
Yeah.
take my participation or how I prayed or how many scriptures I memorized or that I attended all my Bible studies. It's just he did it that day. And it
Yeah.
was such a gift and such a surprise. And it
I,
was truly a miracle.
yeah, it
Mm.
was. One last question. But before I tee up the last question, you told me and others that God literally told you, hey, this didn't just give you this gift for you. I wanted you to share it. And it was interesting that the first group of ladies you were going to share this were peers that didn't know nothing about your story. I mean, you hit it so well, even I didn't know it had become a major problem. Um, and and you've been honoring that by sharing that. There's
Mm.
people watching this right now, Gina. They're in your situation. They're in
Mhm.
your shoes. They may be hiding. They may think, "Oh, I don't have a problem. I'm rationalizing everything in between from A to
Yeah,
Z."
I did that.
What would you want to share in closing to the men that would be watching, the women, the married couple, the teenagers, or the whatever,
Yeah.
to encourage them as we close this recording?
I during this time before God took this away from my life and a- absolutely delivered me from alcoholism. I believe that's what it was. I had a lot of people tell me, you really weren't an alcoholic. You just had a lot of kids at home. No, that wasn't true. I was. I really was. But that was nice of them to say that because I think they wanted me to participate with them. But that wasn't true. I knew in my heart it was a problem. And that's another thing I want to say. I don't condemn anybody that has wine with dinner or any of that. It's a problem I have, not that I have with anybody else. There's no condemnation. Um, it's just that it was a problem I had. So I want to say that first and foremost. But hold on a second. Where was I going with this? You just asked me a question.
Encouraging the listeners that might be dealing with something like you're dealing
Yes,
with.
yes. Um, you can't give up knowing that God can do
Right.
it for you anytime. I knew that he had delivered an uncle that I was really, really close to. It was the husband of my aunt that I was really, really close to. I was super close to him. And I knew that he had delivered him prior to their marriage of a horrible drug addiction. And it was like instantaneously.
Right.
And like he should have gone to like a, I don't know, a coma, something for going off of that kind of drugs, all those drugs that quick. And I knew it had happened to him. And I did remind God of that so many times. I said, God, I know at any time you can do this. You did it for him. And I believe that you're no respecter of persons. You love me. You know that I don't want to carry this. Um, so I believe that. I just always believed that. I just didn't know when or how. And of course, I tried to help, because he needs my help. So, not, I'm kidding. Um,
Right.
but it was just, I just want you to know to not give up. I know you didn't give up on me.
And you didn't give up on me.
No, no.
That's right.
And I was just so grateful when it happened. It was so good to know that I could be myself and be, you know, goofy with the family without them going, okay, how much wine has mom had?
Right.
Go hide the wine bottle. Because I heard that a lot. And rightfully so. They had every reason to say that, feel that. Um, so it was just so nice to be able then to be in my own skin and know that that
Well,
wasn't because of any use of alcohol, that it was just I could be like that and not have them saying things like that.
yeah. I,
So
I love I love what you shared right there at the end. We are not condoning anybody that goes out and has a beer with the guys or a glass of wine at dinner or whatever. You're
mm,
just saying this was something that you didn't need to go down that road because it
right,
created a bigger problem.
right.
Kind of like me and ice cream. I don't need to eat ice cream because I can't
Yeah,
stop and I keep going. We all, like I said, if our body is the temple of the Lord's, we want to honor it. And you just realize, hey, I got a problem.
that is,
I
yeah.
don't have a problem with
Yeah,
others, but I have the problem. And I think that's so important that you've shared.
yeah,
So there's no condemnation. It's just that you're just telling your testimony of what God did for you. And I appreciate you doing this for not only everybody in Blended Together Forever,
yeah.
also for anybody else that might be encouraged by watching this one day. So thank you, sweetheart, for doing it.
I also want to say that during that time is when we started our ministry for blended families.
Yeah,
And I think that was part of why I dug my heels in and did not want to participate in it in the beginning, is because I knew that I had that and there was so much shame. But as I began to participate with you, speak at different places, dig into God's word still, it's like He healed me walking it out. Like I felt like I needed to be, not, I'm not going to say perfect, but I can't do this if I'm doing that. And I can't go forward with it. And it's like as we started that ministry, helping blended families and encouraging them to stay and work through things and different ideas, to help with blended families because it's different when you're blending versus, first marriage. Um, God just, I think He honored that I was walking it out even through that. And that I could still, I still had my faith. I still was trusting Him. I just was so afraid of, the shame that I carried with that, and of starting a ministry. So I just, I believe that He worked in spite of all that and worked with me through that. And I felt like that was just a gift that He gave me for obeying Him to help
yeah,
out and to do this. And I just so proud. I was so proud of our kids and all that they've been through. Blending's not easy. And then, this happened, later on in our marriage. Um, so I'm just so proud. I just want to encourage everybody, don't ever give up. Even don't give up in your marriage, in your blended marriage, your first marriage. As I tell everybody, I had a girlfriend come to me once that was, she and her husband were going to divorce. And I said, look, let me tell you something. Your first marriage is as easy as it ever gets. Anything beyond that, it is going to be more than what you're going through now.
right.
But if you are blended, there's resources now. We had no resources back when we married really 30 years ago for blended families. It just wasn't. And now, so grateful. There's different things you can go to. None of the marriage ministries, none of the marriage seminars that we went to address. We would come away and feel great for just us, but it didn't help us with our blended situations with his kids, my kids, our kids. It didn't help any of those real things that were going on day to day, under our roof. So I'm so grateful that, there's so many things out there now that can help. And
Yeah.
it's just so much more readily at our fingertips now. Books, workbooks, our workbook, other things. But I'm glad that we've done it for them. And I just have to show you. See, guys, this is what's on the other side of it.
There you go.
It's all worth it for this right here.
Yep.
And since this picture's been taken, there's been 5 grandbabies added to it for a total of 8 grandbabies. So I was looking at these were some of my bookmarks in one of my books here, and it's just so neat. See, this is the proud grandma
Mhm.
here now.
I know it.
They're the best. They are the best, and it's so worth it, and so grateful. Um, I don't I don't take it for granted. It feels like, well, I just had my 12th anniversary of sobriety, and it really still feels like it just happened like 2 weeks ago.
So
It
good.
just is going by that fast.
That's great.
So, yeah, it's really,
Thank you for sharing, honey. I love you.
I love you.